Jay here for Stretford Paddock. This is the Paddock Podcast. Joining me are two absolute titans of the Manchester United fan base. We've got Ronaldo. You all right?
Yeah, I'm not all right, man.
Great start.
You ask me every week on this, and I'm like, I'm not. I hope one day I will be.
Yeah.
I hope one day.
And Lauren's, sorry, I was going to say Lauren's here as well, but go on, carry on.
That's all I wish for. But
right. Lauren's here as well. It's been a little while, Lauren. How are you?
Yeah, well.
You can be as honest as Ronaldo.
Pretty much the same. It's quite hard to be here, isn't it, really?
Don't need to pretend that you're happy. Isn't it weird, right? Because on paper, we're through to the FA Cup final, right? I checked. We're definitely in the FA Cup final, yeah? But everyone seems like annoyed, deflated, embarrassed, just, frustrated with everything. And I understand it, because it's not like we went through on a high. We scraped past Championship side Coventry on penalties after leading 3-0 with 25 minutes to go. But it is just weird. This whole season's just odd. It's like we can't have any nice things.
I think it would have been worse if we lost, though. I think it's obviously,
mate, 100%.
Do you know what I mean? I said to you earlier, I think these next few weeks would have been basically torture if we went out, because you know what the media is like with the pylon when it comes to Manchester United and when they're doing badly and the negativity. So obviously we've got something to look forward to in terms of a final. I know some people might not think that way because it's against Manchester City and you feel like there's little to no hope, but back-to-back FA Cup finals isn't anything to scoff at. But it's just weird because the way United win, lose or draw games is just not very pleasant at the minute, which is so strange to say. Like, we've literally won. Has there ever been a situation where you win an FA Cup semi-final to get to a final in a penalty shootout where it's a bit high stakes and you feel so deflated after it? It makes literally no sense as a fan or as a football watcher, but that's where we are at the moment.
Yeah, as soon as you get Coventry in that draw, you know that anything less than a comfortable win is going to just cause more issues for this team and for Erik Ten Hag in particular. Lauren, when we were 3-0 up, did you think, this is it, we're coasting, or was you a bit like, it's United, you never know?
Do you know what? It was, a part of me was like, it's United, but also Coventry, because that's the way they got to the semi-final.
Right, okay.
That's how they got there in the first place, so you know they can do it. So it was like, I can't write them off because they've done it once, they can do it again to us at the state we're in at the moment. Anyone can roll us over, so it was kind of expected by me, to be honest.
I had a bit of what Lauren said as well, where I didn't know much about Coventry going into it. They looked 8th place in the table, but they had to have been in the semi-final for a reason. So you didn't want to overlook them at all, because a lot of people were looking towards the final already, and we're very close to basically slipping up. But it's more just a matter of being 3-0 up and then kind of taking our eye off the ball, getting complacent, and then almost being on what would have been probably one of the most historic collapses in FA Cup history. And it just would have been almost like a fittingly sour end to what has been a pretty sour season. But it's crazy, as I said, to be in an FA Cup final, to actually win the game, and then to come in on the Monday and it's almost like it doesn't feel like it.
Feels like we lost.
Do you know what I mean? But all we can do is kind of look towards the final. I think that will be our season. I'm not sure there's much more for us to play for in terms of maybe position in the league. But I think that's the biggest game left in our season. And if I'm Manchester United, I know it seems unlikely that we can get the victory, but I think everything points towards us putting all our eggs in that basket, to be honest with you.
100%. I mean, listen, if we lift the FA Cup in the season, I'll be buzzing, especially the way the season was panning out. The FA Cup still, for me, one of the best trophies out there to win. And especially if you beat City. I know it's a big if, we haven't done it, but if we do beat Manchester City in the FA Cup final, especially after last season, when we found that one and it was just over after 10 seconds, whatever it was.
Yeah, we were poor last season though, weren't we? The final again.
The opener, it was horrible. But it was really weird yesterday at Wembley because, like, obviously you get the win, but not like coming out of the ground. There's a few people shouting and cheering after the game because it's like relief and all that. But everyone was fuming. That last sort of 25, 30 minutes, and then not just the last 20 minutes of the normal game, normal time, then added time and penalties even. It was just so strange. I've never been at a game like that ever as a United fan, because we won. But after the win, people are still angry, still annoyed, still frustrated. Do you know what I mean? Normally, if you have a bad game where you win, everyone will be buzzing. Like, you look at the Brentford game, the performance was terrible. Had we won that game, I think everyone would have been a bit like...
It was a bit like the Coventry one, where it felt like, wow, how did we win that?
Yeah, it would have been like that. Yeah. But because it was Coventry, because we were 3-0 up with 25 minutes to go, because of the way we sort of fell apart at the end, and because of that VAR decision, which we'll get to VAR in a minute, or a little bit later, it was really, really strange. And I've said this on the news this morning. I was glad I had my lad with me, because he sort of made me appreciate the win more, because he was buzzing and I was buzzing for him, because it was his first Wembley win. He'd only been there once before when we lost to City, so he was happy. My mate had his lad with him as well, and he was buzzing. So the two youngsters were happy. And then as you're getting out of the ground and you're bumping into Coventry fans and they're giving you a bit of grief, and it kind of makes you think, yeah, you know what I mean, we did win.
Yeah, it would have been glad. You know what's great?
When they're having a dig and all that, go back to London and all, back to Kent or whatever. You know,
they represented themselves a little bit better than Man City did and their fans anyway.
Mate, I want to ask you a little bit about that, because what did you make of the? In fact, I'll ask you first, Lauren. What did you make? Did you watch the City-Chelsea game? What did you make of that? Because there was a bit of controversy, and we're going to get into the whole VAR debate and decisions and referees and all that stuff, and then we'll get to Jose Mourinho to talk about his recent comments. But what did you make of the Chelsea game? Because Chelsea were in it, weren't they?
Yeah.
If Nicholas Jackson could finish, then I think they'd be all right.
I'm not a Chelsea fan, but he's the most frustrating player to watch. Yeah. Oh my God, he just can't find the net at all. Like, I just don't understand what he's doing when he's got the ball at his feet. It's like he's confused at what is actually at his feet. He doesn't have a clue. It's infuriating.
He's proper. You're right. He's so. He doesn't look like a natural striker, innit? Do you know what I mean? He never. Every time he goes in and goal, he never looks like scoring. And he said we're not a Chelsea fan, but I was a Chelsea fan that day, and I'm sure we all were.
Yeah.
And putting myself in a Chelsea fan's shoes and watching Nicholas Jackson, I was fuming. It's funny watching you say that, because I was like, me and my brother was watching it, and we both obviously wanted Chelsea to go through, and we were fuming at him, but I think that just comes, and you know what's going to be annoying? We kind of want Arsenal, even as much as we don't like them, to probably win the title of
100%.
Over the other two.
100%.
And then you got Chelsea, and then I reckon he's playing Arsenal on the week is it tomorrow? I think they're playing tomorrow.
Yeah,
Chelsea.
I think so. Yeah. No, it's tomorrow. Because I think it's Cole Palmer at Dow.
And then in the game where you probably don't want him to score a goal, he's probably going to end up bagging a brace or something tomorrow. Do you know what I mean? But against City, somehow it was missing. And also, it would have probably give us a little bit more hope going into the FA Cup final, thinking maybe we could get a result. Because I think
I think we could have done Chelsea.
Yeah, and also, and I know this is so negative, but it's where we're at. I can stomach losing to Chelsea in an FA Cup final a lot easier.
Of course, definitely.
I've done it a few times with Chelsea anyway. I've done it in 2007, 2018. We beat them in 1994, sorry, and it didn't hit remotely as hard as losing to them lot last season. That was as well,
because we're closer to City fans as well. Like, you're always going to get more grief.
And it's that whole thing in it of like, it feels like they've always had the upper hand since Fergie retired.
Yeah, that's
in every way. Like, maybe like we've never finished above them in the league, have we?
That's why we're so subdued about getting to the final, because it's like we lost to them last year, and it's just be so jarring losing to him again.
Yeah, just gonna be a rerun.
I mean,
don't want to be too negative. So if you've got anything positive to say, please get involved in the comments. I feel like we're so desperate. This is the most down anyone's ever been. The day after qualifying for a FA Cup final.
How desperate have we been for a positive title? Like every time at the Monday pod, we literally, me and Jay, like, come. Do you know what? We don't have that every
4-3, the quarter final win, and I thought, you know what? Great result, great game. Loved everything about it. This is it now. And then since then, we've won one game.
Again.
Yeah, which is the semi-final. We haven't won a game in the league. And we've got to get technical about it. We haven't won any game after 90 minutes. It's just been proper awful.
We're so sad. Look at us.
And I
just do like mop and moping. Do you know what I mean? Like, what can you do, man? Manchester United, what have you done to us? Look at what you've caused.
Get involved in the chat in the comments. We're going to talk a little bit about the sort of the VAR decisions, shenanigans that went on this weekend. Not just about Manchester United, but also the City Chelsea game, the Forest Everton game. Was it? There was all sorts going on, and I think the meltdown from the media about the Coventry City goal, and also from Nottingham Forest, has been quite biblical, to be honest with you. There's been all sorts going on in terms of accusations and chaos going on. So do let us know about any of that. Get involved in the comments. Glenn F says, I have never felt so much nothingness after reaching a FA Cup final in my time, in all my time as a United fan. It's weird that I didn't wake up buzzing today. I am glad we're in the final, of course, but I have no illusions. Daniel Berry says, at least losing the cup won't hand them a treble again. Do you know what? If you'd have told me 15 years ago that'd be a conversation we'd be having, I'd have said not a chance, and that's where we're at, and I kind of get it.
It's to the point where it's at least we're not handing them a treble, but we handed him a double instead. This is you know what, I'm going to chant that if they win, if they beat us. You pathetic! You're winning a double. This is where we've got. It's not a treble, is it? Oh yeah, won that last year. Never mind. G Dub says Tuchel next. There's is that the 10
a little bit of rumours circling that Tuchel could be the favourite to take over to Ten Hag. Courts Star says, Jay, did you feel conflicted when Coventry had a player called Eccles? Yes, Josh Eccles. Yes, I did. Do you know what I mean? I had to take down
getting a shirt, didn't you?
Yeah, I had to take down the Eccles banner just in case there was any confusion amongst the United and Coventry fans as to which side I was on. Santa Notch in the chat, I don't know what the previous message says, but he's just said I'm 55 actually. I presume someone's questioned his age. Yeah. I'm going to get to that in one sec. I just want to ask a quick question. The Grealish handball that wasn't given, for you, was that a penalty?
Yeah. I thought Aaron Wan-Bissaka's and Grealish's were both penalties, probably. So what annoyed me the most about it, though, is if you don't give Grealish's and you give Aaron Wan-Bissaka's, that's what pisses me off, because then you've got no consistency. I was more annoyed with the fact that Grealish got away with it and City got away with it than actually Wan-Bissaka being awarded a penalty against him, because I can kind of see why it was given. It's hit his hand, it's slightly out and it's going towards goal. It's tight, do you know what I mean? It's not something you can kind of like rant and rave and complain about if you're being impartial, I guess. But when it was the Grealish one, he's kind of stuck his hand out the same way. It's the ball's travelled from a greater distance as well, and it's not even that they didn't give a penalty. He didn't give a corner as well.
That right?
Do you know what I mean?
Because do you know what I mean? I couldn't see the full conversation between him and Cole Palmer. Sorry, but Cole Palmer's gone over to Michael Oliver, who I can't stand, by the way. Michael Oliver, I think he's a terrible referee, and he's saying to him like, it's a penalty, and it seemed to me like he was saying no, it's not deliberate or whatever.
He didn't deliberately touch it or something. It's like, well, if he didn't, then how's it not?
Because Cole Palmer was saying, well, how's it not a corner then? Like, how's it not a corner? How's it not a corner? He kept saying, how's it not a corner then? Like, he couldn't get his head around it.
Because when it touches the hand, it don't count. Do you know what I mean? Apparently, I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know.
They just make it up as you go along, don't they?
And also that's got. I think City probably would anyway. To be honest with you, I think Chelsea had to take those chances, but it's got to rattle you a bit when you've had like a big injustice like that. And I'm no Chelsea fan, but I was for the day, and it was just annoying. And it was also annoying that they had so many opportunities as well. Then you go through to the United game, like you say. It's just a similar thing. It's not identical in terms of the situation, but it's a handball like the Grealish one. And I don't think I've ever seen a man look more guilty than Aaron Wan-Bissaka does when he gives away a penalty. He may as well just tell the ref like that's a penalty, ref. Like he just gets up and he
looks a bit sheepish.
He does. Yeah, he does. Both the Liverpool game and the Coventry game, I have not seen the incident properly. Right, I've seen cause I'm blind, and it was miles away from where I was sat or stood at both games. And I've just seen, for the Liverpool game, I saw him go to the ground and, I didn't see it properly, but I saw him get up and I saw the look on his face was one of, I've just given away a penalty. And then yesterday it was the same. I was looking at him and I think they might have even put him up on the screen and he just looked like a guy who's just giving away a penalty. He was just shouldn't have done that. So it doesn't help. I mean, I'm not saying it's going to change the referee's mind, but you can see he knew it was a penalty. It's just annoying. What annoys me as well is after the VAR goal, because we had that goal which everyone sort of lost their minds over, this whole toenail offside and all this. You've then got people saying, oh, they did that because it's United and da-da-da. I'm like,
the offside?
Yeah, I'm like, that doesn't make any sense if you're going to give a penalty against us that you don't have to give and then disallow a goal. Yeah. What sort of logic is that?
I saw that. It was it shouldn't have been offside because it would have been such a historic.
Yeah.
Oh, that's been winding me up today.
That's not a thing.
Oh my God.
The sort of the gravitas of the occasion dictates whether you're offside. What are you on about? You can't be offside there because
Because it's Coventry.
Do you know what?
It's a championship side. Let them go.
You know what it reminds me of? Right? You disagreed on this. It was that thing on the Arsenal game where he went, where was it Gabriel picked the ball up? And he went, you can't give a penalty for that. It's a kid's mistake. The referee said it's a kid's mistake.
Yeah. Basically said, I didn't mean it. He said he didn't mean it. But you know what's funny though? I think Arsenal fans clipped up that's not the first time he's done. I think they've done it quite a lot throughout the season.
Have they?
But that was only where it's just kind of, it's almost like a routine. But I think what they've done is he's obviously been handball, but they've thought the common sense element of it. But it's almost so stupid the situation.
I think you need to be punished. You need to learn. Like you need a hard lesson. If you get the handball, then you won't do it again. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, it's like under fives or something, like basketball, where where they're allowed to pick up, where they're allowed to pick up and run with it.
I used to ref when my lad was in the first team. He was like under sixes, and I used to ref. When you refed, you'd have to like let them get away with things. Like they do things like they pick up the ball and you go no. Even if it was the other team, like I used to like my lad's team would play someone else. I ref the game. I'd be like no, put it down, let them take it. But these were 6-year-olds.
He was
like
due
their first time playing a competitive game or a game against other players.
The thing is with Gabriel, he was due a bozo moment eventually because he's played. Do you know what? Because he's always been like a proper bozo where he does random like stuff that cost Arsenal, especially like last season. And this season he's been really good, but. Yeah. I think it was due where he was going to do something like that.
Do you know what as well? I was so gutted he didn't give a penalty because the meltdown. Arsenal fans, imagine that had been responsible for them getting knocked out of the Champions League in the quarterfinals. That would have been. I reckon it would have been poetic, wouldn't it? I think Elon Musk would have had to get some more servers or something because it would have just just broke the internet.
I reckon Arsenal's account would have got suspended. If Forrest did that, did you also see that how when all the English clubs went out? So like obviously, City went out. Was it West Ham went out? Villa went out.
No, Villa
went through.
Liverpool. No.
And Liverpool went out.
Yeah, Liverpool
and then when they went out, all those clubs put, our journey comes to an end, or we start to bow out, and everyone's they sound dead gutted, and then Arsenal's was like, our brilliant Champions League journey comes to an end with the love heart emoji, and everyone's like talking about the mentality of Arsenal compared to everyone else. When you put it, it looks like nothing when you see the tweet itself, but then when you put it like
it's probably taking part of the counts, isn't it?
Juxtapose it with the others. Yeah, can we let me have a look? Actually, I'll try and find it because it was when was it? It was last week. It's
last week, wasn't it?
It was last week.
You can't search on PC on X. That's the annoying thing. Otherwise, you would be able to see it. But
it was. That's the thing with Arsenal. They've always been a bit like that on their socials.
That's what they're a bit. Yeah, a bit like.
Like they did it. Do you remember when Lingard danced at the Emirates?
Yeah.
And they were like. Every tweet the official account did for the next month was about it's our dance floor and this is our, you know what I mean, like pictures of the players. Go on, you have a little look. See, while you're having a look at that, anyway, if we can get rid of that and swap that around, thank you. It's not a bird, it's not a plane, it is the most revolutionary ball trimmer the world has ever seen. Yes, Manscaped, our friends at Manscaped, have dared to dream, and they have come up with what can only be described as the biggest advancement in below-the-waist grooming technology ever. In fact, I think it's the biggest advancement in technology, full stop. This is like the discovery of fire or the invention of the wheel. They have got the Ultra 5.0, the Performance Package 5.0. You thought the 4.0 was the top. There was no getting better. Well, you're wrong, because if I look at the right camera, thank you, producer Ethan, I knew what I'm doing. You know that this is a monumental occasion. The 5.0 is here. We've been talking about the 4.0 for about 3 years. And I was pretty prepared to be speaking about that for the rest of my life. But no, Manscaped have gone one better. They have got the 5.0, the Lawnmower 5.0. And the Performance Package 5.0 has got it all. You can get as well 20% off and free shipping using the code DEVILS20. And what you're going to get for your 20% off and your free shipping, well, you're going to get, obviously, the Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra, the 5th generation trimmer, which features two interchangeable blades, the next gen skin safe blade heads. I mean, you know a bit of that, don't you? Plus, you've got the crop preserver, the ball toner, the weed whacker for your nose and ear hair. You've got the shed travel bag. You've got the Boxers 2.0 as well. You've got all that good stuff, yeah? And you've got 20% off and free shipping. Don't forget as well, You've got the dual LED spotlights. You don't need to get the candles out. You don't need to get the torch on your phone, put your phone in your mouth with the torch on, all that nonsense, right? You can use the LED spotlights. It's mint. So go and check out the link in the description. Use the code DEVILS20. You get free shipping. You get 20% off. You get the weed whacker. You get the crop preserver. You get the ball toner. You get the shed travel bag. You get all that good stuff. And don't forget, you get the Lawnmower Ultra 5.0. Your balls will thank you. And a big thank you to Manscaped for sponsoring this podcast. And I'm going to look at the other camera because I know what I'm doing. Thank you. Yes, Arsenal tweeted a Champions League journey to be proud of and a heart emoji. Oh, can we?
It's cute that.
Can we see that? Can you see that on mine?
No, you definitely can't see that.
Can you see that?
Closer to you, Jay.
To me.
It's like me without my glasses.
It was just the fact that they did that where every other team that went out just put we've gone out. Like,
I'll be honest with you, I can't work out Arsenal. I don't know about them. There's a part of me that feels like they've got their act together. They have that emotion, that sort of everyone's everyone's the best, everyone's better than everyone else.
Then the following week
we're all in together. Like there's that, and then the following week everyone. And I kind of get it, and I think okay. It's probably a bit of a roller coaster, but a pretty good journey for them at the minute. There's nothing wrong with that. But then I look at it and I think, you're probably going to end the season without any trophies again.
So are you going to...
Your Champions League journey wasn't that amazing. Was it? Who did they beat? Was it Porto?
Scrape through Porto on pens, and the best team they beat in normal time was Sevilla the whole time.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
Like, it's not that good.
And also, because I thought you might segue towards the whole... Because there's been a bit of discourse lately about whether, like, Arteta... if he's achieved anything in comparison to Ten Hag. You've seen that? Have you not seen that? People were peddling that yesterday, like saying...
I was switched off a little bit from socials.
Yeah, I swear I saw you tweet that though, Jay.
Me?
I swear.
No.
Something about Ten Hag's reached 3 finals in 2 years, and I think Arteta's been to 1 in 5 years.
I mean, I'll be honest with you. You know me, Ronnie. I love a bit of shithousery, right?
Yeah.
But I did not feel like doing anything with my chest out coming out of Wembley yesterday.
Yeah.
I was struggling to start
keeping my head down.
trolling people, yeah. I did a couple of posts on my Insta with me, and my lad was happy and all the rest of it. It was a good day out for me and my mates, and a few of us who've known each other for like 30 years, we're all met up at Wembley. But I wasn't into like, I'm going to start laying into Arsenal or laying into the Scouts.
Nah, but that was the shamelessness though. The shamelessness of, because a lot of people you do Ten Hag prop by saying, you should give him time like Arteta got, and then it's like...
You're not having it, are you?
I'm not having that. So they're having the... So they've had the whole thing of...
He's proper not having
Absolutely
that.
not.
Yeah. Any other illusions there, Lauren?
Nah, because I think it's a bit of an anomaly in it. Do you know what I mean? So anyway...
Go on, sorry.
So the whole thing with... obviously, Ten Hag's been to 3 finals in 2 years, which... on the face of it, that's actually a great achievement. That's really, really good.
Yeah.
Which makes his tenure seem so weird, because there's been so many, like, there's been highs that are, like, probably as high as you can get, which is getting to finals or winning a trophy, even if it was the Carabao Cup. But then you've had such bad lows as well. So it's like, it's been too many extremes. So that was what the shamelessness that some United fans were peddling on Twitter, which was, I found quite funny, though, of the fact that Arteta's been there. He's got a lot of kind of praise for the rebuild that he's done at Arsenal and made him title and European contenders or whatever, and looking miles better than they have for years. But then again, to show for it, he's only had no silverware apart from the one with Emery's team, and then he's not got to a final domestically or in Europe in 5 years either. Yeah. So it's a bit like, it is true in a sense, do you know what I mean? So, but it depends what you want from your club, really. And I think United probably have a little bit higher standards as well than Arsenal. Why is it that
you don't believe that you can look at what Arteta did and think like, okay, that's comparable to what's going on at United? Because you've been quite consistent with that.
I think because you got to see something to believe in, or you got to see some sort of like. I know it's not always linear like a rebuild. Sometimes it can be a bit like that. But I think with Arteta he started out really shit, and he was on the verge of getting sacked. He had a couple of 8s.
I don't like he's on the verge of getting sacked for about 2 years.
But which is true. And usually, managers don't get that time. But then again, I think Arsenal saw enough in him in terms of him changing the culture a bit there. And even though they weren't getting the results in terms of finishing in the top 4 or whatever. They were on a very slow, gradual, like, incline.
Yeah.
Whereas I think with United, I think what works against Ten Hag is he had a season that was pretty strong to begin with.
Yeah.
In terms of finishing 3rd and winning a trophy. But it's the fact that it's not gone like this. It's more gone like that and then nosedived.
Yeah.
I think the nosedive is what's different with the Ten Hag, with the Arteta tenure, where he started off low, and even though it was quite low at times, it began to get a bit gradual over the course of the seasons.
They could see the changes he was implementing from the beginning, so they could let him have that time because they could see the changes he's making. Whereas,
where do you stand with Ten Hag? Because whenever you compare Ten Hag, if you're trying to make that case where like Ronnie was sort of disproving the point
regression in it,
Arteta, I've done the one myself where you go, okay, look at Fergie.
Yeah.
3 years, first season, we finished second his first full season. You know, successful in terms of where we got to in the league and where he took over from. His second full season, I think we finished 13th or 11th or something. His third season, we finished mid-table, but we won the FA Cup. But the argument there is the times have changed now. You know, that was the 80s, and you ain't getting away with that anymore, especially not with Champions League being such a big thing and all the rest of it. Where do you stand with Erik tonight? Do you see anything that makes you feel like, I can buy into this guy, I can see him carrying us forward? Or I'm
kind of like on the fence a little bit because I've got pros and cons to him. So, you know, he's had a tough time at United with all backroom problems, the takeover, Sancho. You know, there's been so many problems. Greenwood. You know, he's had that in the background constantly. He's not had a season where there's not been something behind the scenes making waves. And I'm always someone that wants to stick by a manager, and they've got to have time and this, that, and the other, and you just don't know what's going to happen now with Ineos and everything like that. But at the same time, I'm watching these games and I can see no game plan, no real tactics, and the substitutions are just very questionable.
Can I ask you about that? Because I get it, people looking at substitutions from yesterday, and I'll get to you in a minute, Ronnie, and going, what was he doing? That changed the game. That gave Coventry the impetus or whatever. Is there not a case to be made that 3-0 up, bringing on, was it Antony and Ericsson? I mean, is it that bad? Taking off 2 teenagers for those 2 players?
Why we still got Rashford on the pitch?
I mean,
this is what I did. Like, Garnacho was still looking pretty bright, whereas Rashford, when he gets lazy, that brings the team onto us as well. And just bringing Antony on anyway is just a huge problem.
Do you think had he taken off Rashford for Antony, it would have been different? I mean, I didn't want him to take Garnacho.
I think because I'm calling for Ahmad as well.
Yeah. I agree with Lauren. I thought Rashford should have come off.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. I don't think he was doing anything, and I like Garnacho, and I think he's always a threat. Yeah. I think even if he's not always, productive, he's always running,
plays with urgency, that
confidence. And Rashford, I don't know if you could pick it when I tell you, was getting pelters. Like, the fans are on him, and to the point where you got booed when he came off.
The only issue with Rashford
fans, it wasn't just
I don't know whether it was like booing of the whole. Well, yeah.
I mean, it was in stereo where I was stood. The grief he was getting.
The only issue with Rashford is obviously, during games, sometimes you do come up against adversity, which is us crumbling towards the end and Coventry having all the momentum. And the thing with Rashford is, we've seen from him time and time again with his mentality and his body language and his just general demeanour, that he's one of the worst people to have in the team when you're coming up against adversity or when it's down. He's so like, he's not a young player anymore. He's a senior player.
He's 26.
He needs to lead by example, and sometimes that has to be the presence and kind of the aura that you show on the pitch.
You don't have to be like shouting, because he's not that kind of person. You don't need to be like shouting at the players and geeing them up.
Just lead by example.
Yeah, but his body language even just needs to be.
His body language has been spoken about a lot for a reason.
So exactly. So, and he becomes a passenger when that happens. So I thought when he took Garnacho off, who's someone that has his faults sometimes, he can be quite erratic sometimes. Sometimes he's almost plays too fast. But that's just him. He's got that youthful exuberance. But one thing is, Garnacho, is he's honest. And I think that's the type of thing that you need in an FA Cup semi-final towards the end when something's going wrong, because he can always produce something. Whereas Rashford gets in a little bit of a shell, and then he has a bit of a mope, and I don't know, man, against a team that was gaining momentum like that, Coventry, and I think when we talk about subs, interesting enough, I think Coventry's subs seemed a bit stronger than ours in terms of it gave them a little bit of a G-up, and that's what happens when you're at Manchester United. We've got a few injuries, obviously, but you looked at our bench and it didn't look that strong, whereas, and I said this to you earlier, United have players that are probably, in terms of ceiling talent, they're more talented than the Coventry players, right? But you've also got a lot of like debutants or youngsters on the bench for us that aren't really going to change the game or have never played at this level, whereas Coventry probably have a full side where their ceiling is a bit lower in terms of their ability, but they probably have 16 players that are around the same level, so whenever they bring subs on, it doesn't really affect... It's a
like-for-like swap,
it's almost like for like. It doesn't affect them negatively, whereas United, it's like, it's here, you might argue about how high it is, and then you make a sub and it just plummets a little bit, whereas other teams maintain. And I said before the game yesterday, when I'd never seen an FA Cup semi-final with the potential of it being tight and it going to extra time, where you don't need your full 16 players ready to play and perform. Obviously, when players tire, Wembley's a huge pitch, people get fatigued, and there's loads of peaks and troughs in a game. And I was worried anyway when I saw the bench, and then the subs that were made were, we needed to control the game, we needed to get a little bit more defensively solid and kind of manage the game better. I think when you take off Mainoo and Garnacho and you bring on Antony and Eriksen, you already lose a bit of legs anyway. Yeah, 100%. And that's not a defensive change, and we just looked disjointed ever since those two players came on.
It was sad as well, because I thought when Diallo came on, he looked lively straight away.
Yeah,
he got everyone going, and everyone was like, just get the ball to him, and he looks up for it. And then I think he moved. Did he move into the middle? I can't remember, but he was a little bit quiet towards the end of the added time. But yeah, no, the whole Rashford thing, it was obvious and it looked like he only took him off when he was injured as well.
He did a Saka, didn't he? He did a
Saka limp, which is now a thing, innit? Yeah, I saw that after the game as well. SK says, I feel so clear in what has to happen, even if Ten Hag doesn't make it in summer, clear out first. Tony Pierce has been a member of the... he's welcome to the Academy. He's a new member. Extra content on the member section. SK says, is true because Arsenal just choose to drop out of comps to achieve what they've done. United have played everything they can. I think it's about Arsenal. SK also says, what decisions out of all the issues he's had do you disagree with? For me, it's Antony and playing Rashford. Antony had been dropped to. It's two things. So he's not a fan of Antony or Marcus Rashford. And... I think you kind of get it as well, because this is the thing, right? I thought Rashford was poor yesterday. I thought Antony was as well when he came on. I don't think he did anything, really. I mean, the best thing he did was cupping his ears to wind everyone up.
Do you know
what I mean?
That angered me.
Why?
I can't even tell you, because
I thought
who is he to cup his ears to anyone?
When someone told me that he did that, I thought they were joking. I honestly thought they were joking.
But it's so Antony, though.
With him. What were your thoughts on it?
I couldn't believe it.
Why? Because have you seen this guy? He literally but
he's a screw loose.
Yeah,
he's a screw loose. That's why I have my thoughts. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Let's go into that one.
Do you know what I mean? But like, he basically, I don't know, that it shouldn't surprise me, but it still did, because obviously Højlund celebrated. He scored the pen, so probably in the adrenaline of the moment, you can see why he celebrated. Then he turned around and realised
no one was there.
No one was there.
It was like the opposite. It was like Dan James against Crystal Palace. Remember Dan James got the equaliser?
Yeah.
And ran and did that celebration.
And no one was there.
Rashford
grabbed him and said, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Everyone's, because it was almost like he was embarrassed to win. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And that's where we've got to.
I was glad. I didn't want to see the players celebrate because they didn't deserve it.
Do you know what I mean? I think Maguire as soon as
to be fair, I really like that, going straight to the Coventry players.
Deserve credit yesterday.
Yeah.
I thought he played.
He
did play well as well. Yeah.
There's a couple of times we went on a run. We went from the whole length of the Wembley pitch. I was like, what's going on here? He got a corner as well. I was like, what's going on?
Getting a nosebleed. He's coming up so high.
I think the funny thing for me about that whole Antony doing that was just how empty his performance was, and at the end of it, he was acting like he'd won the game for us.
He's so shameless.
He's absolutely shameless.
They said he was doing it because one of the Coventry players did it, but even so, do you know what I mean? It's like, come on, man. There's levels to it. Because the thing is, Antony's probably cost. Antony's probably cost paid for.
Some guy. I know this sounds made up, but we were stuck in traffic coming out of Wembley. and we were alongside a load of Coventry fans because we was in the Coventry end where we parked like that round that side. And some guy wound down his window and he was chatting to us in our car. And he was saying like about the cost of their team. And he was saying something like, you know, that Antony that plays for you, our team costs this, that, and basically saying that their team costs less than.
Would Antony start for Coventry after yesterday? I'm not sure he does. You know, that's actually
not,
mad. He probably doesn't, because
what do you think
they brought a right winger on that Tavares. Right winger.
Well.
He looked good when he
looked lively when he come on.
Right,
do you think with Antony, do you think that Erik underestimated the level of the Premier League?
I think he did.
Yeah,
because
100%.
he knew him well.
Yeah.
And his numbers in Holland weren't amazing. I think it was 8 goals and 4 assists in his last season for a team that was absolutely dominating. And I remember me and Joe doing the live, talking about him potentially coming to United and looking at, I didn't know a lot about him, looking at his numbers thinking, okay, they're a little bit underwhelming. But you think, well, if you know, when Erik comes in, he brings him with him almost. You think, well, he must know him, he must know. Yeah. But I just think he thought, what's good enough.
Didn't Ollie value him at like 20 million or something?
Yeah, I think the club did. The club did. Just on Rashford quickly before we move on. Is it time for him to move on?
Rashford, do you know what? I was thinking about this weekend. I had this conversation with one of my mates actually, and with actually one of my mates and one of my former athletics coaches, Yanni, and we said, I think Rashford needs to go in the summer.
Okay.
And I think his price is never going to be any higher than it is now. I think we've lost out on a maximum. But honest to God, it might sound harsh, but I think production-wise and even ability-wise at the moment, and in terms of general potential, I think nowadays you can get, I think we've talked about the fact that fullbacks is probably become a little bit of a position where there's not much talent in world football when it comes to fullbacks, but I think there's a lot of wingers out there that you can get for around 20-25 million that can provide you better performances than we're getting from Marcus Rashford.
Okay.
So I don't actually see him at this moment in time. I think he's a net negative because of obviously the wages that he has and also the performances that he's bringing, because obviously he has spells, he has spurts, he has purple patches, but I think it's become so like toxic now that it's probably even better for himself that he leaves. And I think United can get enough money for him where you can recruit with a winger on the rise that probably has the same level of potential output and talent, because for all the ability that we say that Rashford has and that we've seen at times, he's just never been able to put it together for a sustained period and become the world-class player that people thought he could become, because he just, what I said about world-class players is they make the right decisions more often than not, and unfortunately that's something that Rashford struggles with the most, is where his decision making is generally quite poor. And I feel like after the first, second or third time that you've ran into 5 players, you might want to pass it the next time. And that works me. Then he does the same thing over and over again.
I hear you, I do, and I can't recall being at a game, certainly not a game where United ended up on the winning side, and seeing so much vitriol and anger towards a United player, especially when you think about
and he's Mancunian and everything.
Came through the academy. Usually that gives you a little bit of leeway with fans, especially.
But I think he's had enough leeway. I know he had that season that was great, but really, has he? Other than, was it last season or the season before? What other season has he been absolutely outstanding the whole season? I can't find one, because he's so inconsistent. Yeah. And I don't think his attitude's ever really been the best it could be for, as you say, a Mancunian, growing up playing for his boyhood club. It's like, as soon as he got to that first team, it was, I'm here now.
I think
I've got it.
I think the first season he had, when he burst on the scene, that first half season where he scored in all his debuts, I thought there was something special there. And then he tailed off a little bit. And then he had a little bit of a rejuvenation under Ollie. Do you remember when we had the Greenwood Ollie?
It's always spells.
Greenwood,
no,
it spells.
It's
Greenwood, Marshall, Rashford, 60 goals between them, period. And then the similar thing happened with Marcus, was happened with Martial. We'll get the right way around. Like Martial, do you remember when he went to Sevilla? And I remember chatting to McCullough. McCullough was like, oh, we'll get more money for him when he goes on loan if we sell him. And I was like, unless he has an absolute nightmare. And he did have a nightmare. He scored 1 goal in the Europa League for him and came back after Lopetegui had said he was a load of rubbish as well after his first appearance. And it was like, oh my God, that's, it was a disastrous loan spell that sort of ended the prospect of getting any decent money for him. And I feel like if you are going to sell Marcus Rashford, this summer, might be the time to do it, because if you have another season like you just had,
Yeah.
which is what you're alluding to, his value is
It's going to be the exact same as Martial, and we're going to struggle to send him anywhere.
and he's on big money, innit? So he's not going to leave for like to take 100 grand a week to go and play for Fulham or whatever.
That's the problem. And the thing is with Rashford, as I said, you know, the feather in his cap is people say, or people point to his record in big games, where
His big game record.
Rashford's big game record is, and there's a reason for that, is because his best ability is physical. It's his pace, and it's pace and be able to attack space, and like he's almost like a transitional counter-attacking player. And unfortunately now, the way football's gone is those type of players usually need to have that, but also have like a bit of the temperament where they can actually keep the ball and work in tight spaces and make good decisions when they're up against like low blocks or a lot of defenders, or if they're doubled up on. But his game is always tailored towards United getting dominated and him being like an outlet where he can run in behind and he's quick. And I think that's the reason why his goal score record is good against the big teams. But then just generally over the course of a season, it's not the best, because if anything, I think I've started to realise that Rashford actually is quite a limited football player, and he's a little bit more limited than we probably thought he was. Do
you think that might be an issue that people forget? That maybe he's not as good as people think?
Yeah,
because people sort of act like... I've heard this thing about, you're not alone there, Lauren, where people go, his attitude isn't right, he's lazy and all criticisms that I understand. But then you think, actually, maybe his ability-wise, he isn't the player that we thought he was going to be when he burst onto that scene and when he scored against Arsenal and scored the winner at the Etihad, and everyone was like, this kid's going to be... Maybe he's not quite at that level. Maybe, and I've heard this argument made, maybe he's almost like a Europa League level player rather than a Champions League level player. So there might be an element.
But I think if I saw him try harder, even though it might not be the best, at least if I saw him trying his best.
Yeah,
that'd help a little bit more.
I think when you throw into the mix,
that's what bothers fans the most.
There's that, and then also this season as well, you've had the off the field stuff, which has been an obvious detriment. Where the Belfast incident, which has given more fuel to the fire of, look, this guy's, he's not going to work out the way we wanted, and might have to cut our losses. He's almost like the opposite of Lukaku in a way, because Lukaku's record in the top six was awful. Yeah, his record in terms of goals was quite impressive. Whereas Rashford, his record in terms of goals isn't that impressive, actually. I think it's about 1 in 3, a little bit less than that. But his record against Big Six, as you point out, Ronnie, is quite good for the reasons probably that you've mentioned as well. Jose Mourinho has been doing what he likes to do best, and that's having a dig at people that used to play for him. He's been quoted in the Telegraph, I think this is, and he says, there are still players at Manchester United that I didn't want 5 or 6 years ago. There you go, there's a little confidence booster there for some of the players that were playing for Jose Mourinho. You know who you are, eh? Don't worry. He says, I think they represent a little bit what I consider not the best professional profile to a club of a certain dimension. There you go, there's a few long-winded words in there. Also, he's asked about Pogba. And I think this is accurate, I remember this. He says, the season after France won the World Cup, I think Paul came back different. The World Cup took him to a dimension where football was not the most important thing for him. And I remember when he came back from the World Cup, Pogba, and I was buzzing he'd won the World Cup, and I was hoping right now, come back to United, and we finished second the season before, distant second. Let's go for it. Let's do something. And we'd had an underwhelming transfer window. You think, all eyes on Pogba. Can he be the one?
He's going to be the one.
And it was obvious straight away he wasn't happy. Like, he came back and, little digs he was having at the manager, and I can't say what I want to say as I'll get fined. Do you remember? And we shouldn't be playing like that against Wolves and all this sort of stuff. And you're like, what's going on here, man? It's like these two are not getting on. And obviously Mourinho's held on to that.
Did he enjoy the success of the France team, and then he's come back to United with some mentality that we kind of see in the background? He's like, this is so different to France.
Or maybe he's achieved the pinnacle of world football, and he's come back and thought, no one can chat to me now.
I think it felt more like that to me.
Yeah.
Because it felt like, certainly with Jose, they were like that straight away. And it was so embarrassing. I remember being in some of those press conferences, I was still reporting at the time, and Pogba would say things you think, you didn't need to say that. Like, Paul Pogba used to walk through mixed zones constantly, right? He'd walk through a mixed zone, not chat to anyone, right? Wasn't an issue. You're not always going to get Paul Pogba, one of the biggest footballers in the world, biggest names in the world. And then all of a sudden, he'd walk through the mix zone and he'd stop and go, I can't talk, because if I say what I want to say, I'm going to get fined. And carry on walking. And you think, why have you just suddenly said that? That's like...
Because he said what he wanted to say without saying it, basically.
Where there wasn't one. Like, you didn't have to... You could have just carried on walking and no one gone, well, why has Paul Pogba not stopped and spoke to us? Like, he didn't do it most weeks. But then because he stopped and said that, the next press conference with Jose's getting asked, what did Paul Pogba mean when he says he can't say it? And Jose's going, he can say whatever he wants to say. I'm not bothered. I don't know where he's getting this nonsense that I'll fine him from. He can say what he wants. But it felt like there was something going on there that wasn't a positive.
What players do you think he's talking about, though, when he says... Because obviously Pogba's gone now and you've seen what's happened to him, but in terms of like the current squad now, and he said there's players at United still that he wanted to get rid of. Who do you think he's talking about?
Well, there was a very famous Shaw one, wasn't there?
Luke Shaw. I think it wasn't. There was reports that even like his teammates, like Luke Shaw's teammates, were sticking up for him in training because Jose was just digging him out constantly. And was it the Brighton game, the FA Cup, where he started Shaw in the snow at Old Trafford. He started Shaw. We were terrible, by the way. He took Shaw off for Ashley Young. We won. And after the game, he said, well, we won when I took Shaw off for a reason. And it was just like, we didn't need to say that.
Did he also say something about whenever Shaw's on his side?
I have to do his thinking for him. I have to be his brain and tell him what to do, which I thought was a bit harsh. So definitely, I think you can put Luke Shaw in.
I don't think it's Rashford, though, because I thought Mourinho loved him.
No.
I don't think it's Rashford.
I think he's been very critical of Rashford since he retired, since he left United. He said, and also...
Is that exclusive?
No. He said it, I love it, to be honest. He said it on Sky. He said things like, there's a reason that he didn't, he's not got that many goals or as many goals as everyone expected him to get. He kind of explained it.
Do you think that the professional profile bit is about, obviously, United making Rashford the superstar and giving him the keys and whatever, and he's kind of dropped off the ball a bit, which he's mad, though, because when...
what he said about Rashford, though, and Martial... When Lukaku was injured, and funnily enough, that was a Brighton game as well, away.
Where's goals going to come from?
And he went, you wonder why I don't pick him every week. And because you remember, they had a bit of a stinker, and they weren't on the same page as well. They were both being greedy and trying to score. And it was like...
Rashford talks a good game, though, because like, in response to that, Rashford does come on, he does these interviews, these statements where I'm all for the club and stuff like that.
Media trained very well.
But when it but when it comes down to it, it's the phrase of like, it's like, don't tell me, show me.
Yeah.
And that's the thing with Rashford, is he doesn't show you often enough, but he tries to tell you. And fans, we're fans, innit? We're casual fans. A lot of people in the football world, a lot of footballers like to say, what do we know? What do you know? You don't play football or whatever, etc. XYZ. But one thing that you can't kid fans with is the energy part and the heart and the want to. Fans have a good eye for that. Do you know what I mean? And you can say, I care about this club more than anything, etc. But then when you're doing stuff like calling in a sickie to training because you stayed 1 or 2 nights extra on the booze midweek in Belfast, that doesn't show us that you care about the club. Because this is during a time where United are struggling, which has been the majority of the season. So when he comes to a point where he does these like comments in the media, or he did that, was that interview that
the Players Tribune?
The Players Tribune one.
I think you had to look between the lines on that interview as well.
Yeah.
Because I think what he did was he made an argument that wasn't being made, or he pushed back on an argument that wasn't being made. His argument, and forgive me if I'm getting it wrong, but I did read the interview. It was quite a short interview as well, considering the Players Tribune likes to give you an interview where they've spent like 12 hours with the player and gone into his own entire life history, which is a good interview, to be fair. But he was coming from the angle of, I could have left United when I was 12 or 13 or 14 or whatever, and I stayed. I've never looked at a transfer. People questioning my commitment, and I think they're not questioning whether you want to be at United. I think they're questioning whether you're performing at the levels you can do for United. And I think that was the argument that people were making, and he was pushing back on a different one.
Yeah.
So I thought it was a bit strange that he was like, I don't think people are saying you don't want to be here, Marcus, or well, some people are. I think they're saying when you're here, you're not doing what you should be doing.
It's like a commitment to the job, not the club, it's the job he has to do.
I think that was the sort of the weirdness about it. Glenn F says, Jay, do you think we'll win another game this season? Hopefully. Tina Tellefson Toka has been a member of the Academy, 20 months, says, why has Rashford started the game and playing badly and Garnacho hanging sub off and playing good football? I think we've discussed that. Jay says the players are sabotaging the club again. Yeah. Do you think there's any element in that? Do you think any of these players are down tools, or do you think they're still fighting?
I've for the majority of the season, I'm not gonna lie to you. I would be honest about the players. I haven't seen them down tools quite the way that they've had in previous managers.
No.
I've not seen because
There seems to be a bit of fight there.
There seems to be a bit of fight. There's some games where you can question it, definitely, when it comes to work rate compared to other teams. But in terms of the actual blatant down in tools that we have seen, like under Ole, under Ragnick, under previous managers, I've not quite seen that.
So is it just the ability that's not good enough then?
Do you know what it is? Because there's a lot of argument whether it's Ten Hag's fault or whether the players aren't good enough. And I've basically said people think I'm quite harsh on Ten Hag, but I think it's a collective issue. Obviously, I think the truth lies somewhere in the middle of that. You've got players that are probably not as good as we thought they were or as they should be at Manchester United. That's true, but then I feel I am also seeing incompetence from the manager when it comes to tactics and structure too. So you can get two things. It's not either one or the other. It's not black or white. But people want to be extremely on one side or extremely on the other. But when it comes to the players are bad or the players aren't good enough, it's the Coventry game where that narrative or that argument doesn't fly, because Coventry City don't have better players than Manchester United. So why on earth was it a game? Yeah. Because of tactical issues, changes, and also because I'm not gonna lie to you, I know we went 3-0 up, but that first 45 minutes, 50 minutes or 60 minutes of the game was a bit of a false dawn, because Coventry don't normally play with a back five. I think they were a bit nervous. I said to you, I think they played a little bit cagey.
Well, I was chatting to a couple of Coventry fans after the game who said, once, I think the fans and the players sort of collectively realised, you know what, despite the fact United were winning, they're not that great.
I think that's exactly what happened. So they changed.
Isn't the United
they realised that. So that's what I mean. As soon as Coventry went to their normal formation with the normal players at half time, the game changed, and then we saw all the same structural issues that we've seen all season. And it was kind of masked in the first half because they decided to sit deep and they went with a back five that they weren't comfortable with, and it made us look probably better than we are. And then as soon as they played their normal game and actually went for it in the second half, it was almost like they were automatically the better side. And then you can't tell me from the players' standpoint that Coventry have a better 11 than us. So that has to be an issue that goes beyond, or the players just aren't good enough. Sometimes that's the truth, and there's a bit of that, because obviously at the same time I do believe that we've got players on there that surely are experienced enough that if you're 3-1 down, to take it upon themselves to sit in, to manage the game properly against the Championship side. I do see that, but at the same time there's just no kind of justification for bashing player ability or the players not being good enough, but then saying that it's not Ten Hag's fault because of that, when you're playing against a Coventry side that don't have a team that are as good as ours, player for player. That's my issue with it.
I agree now. Willie Zhang says no one else is conceding so many shots and bottling the end of so many games. Players are the main issue, but Ten Hag is also responsible. Not good enough. Alexi Braithwaite in the chat there. Wally of the Weeks. While you're thinking of Wally of the Week, actually, I'm going to put a little link into the chat, if that's, or I'm not actually. No, I'm not. Ignore me, 'cause that's not worked. That's handy. Wally of the Week. You know how that works, don't you, Lauren? You've been on here before. Just someone who's been
It's an obvious one, but it is Antony for me.
Really?
Yeah,
that's a good one.
It really annoyed me. I'm like, what are you doing cupping your ears to Championship side? Like, it was so embarrassing and did make him look like a Wally.
That is definitely, and that's an inarguable Wally of the Week. I think my one's got to be Casemiro for his pen. I think, you know what? Yeah, I think Casemiro's penalty. I said to you earlier, if I'm Ten Hag, I'm keeping an eye on Casemiro after that pen.
It rivaled Bernardo Silva's.
I want you to explain that to me, because that's
if I'm the gaffer and I've seen Casemiro's pen, I feel like it almost looked it was that bad. It almost looked deliberate, like almost as if he's like, I'm playing for Al Nassr next season. I don't like this ball guy. I don't want him to get through to a final, so I'm just gonna chip the ball into the keeper.
Why did he take the first penalty as well? That was
probably asked to.
But it was.
You probably know.
Deliberate.
He probably knows the stats that usually whenever you miss the first pen in the shootout, you usually always lose.
So you thought he was
Let me go first on this.
Let's get rid of
proper
this stuff.
tinfoil at this.
Yeah. You don't know. He doesn't know this shit.
No, don't get him started. This is mild compared to him. I don't know, right? Do you know what? Actually, I'm going to pick as my Wally of the week. Right, where we were studying in Wembley yesterday, right, there was some lads who, like older gentlemen, who wouldn't sit down in front of these other lads who wanted them to sit down, and they had a fight in the United end. And listen, I can't fight for Toffer, but it was the worst fight I've ever seen in my life. Like, it was genuinely pathetic, to the point where everyone around them was watching them, laughing at them as they were rolling around on the seats. And we're 3 minutes into the game. Like, you know, one of them ones where you're in a headlock and you're not even punching, you're like in a headlock like that.
And then, an aggressive hug.
Yeah, it was like that, and it went on for like 5 minutes, and everyone was like, what are you doing, lad? Just get a grip, get up, pack it in. And then one of them got up, and then he got off, and then the other one who'd been fighting with him sat down next to him. It was really weird. So those were my Wallies of the week, because I thought that was arguably the worst thing I saw at Wembley yesterday, and that's saying something. Listen, it's been an absolute pleasure. Lauren, where can people find you?
Oh, you do this to me. I think it's Lauren_page07 on Twitter.
Ronnie, what are you up to? Where can people find you?
Ronaldo Brown _98.
Did you just forget your name?
Yeah.
That's how it felt to me. I'm not going to lie to you, Ronnie.
You know, Men in Black vibe.
Don't tell them your name. That's what they want you to do. I put a link in the chat. It's for some reason the Eventbrite link isn't working. It's a link to the Twitter account, or a tweet, sorry, that has a link in it for a charity event for the homeless for the Boob Centre on the 3rd of May. It's at FC United. It's going to be a little match going on there. It's a homeless charity, raise a bit of money for them to help the homeless in Manchester. It's a very, very good cause indeed, so you can get involved in that, buy some tickets, make a donation, any of that jazz, please do. Lauren, it's been good having you back on the channel.
It's been great.
Hopefully next time we can have you on, but it's weird because like we're getting you on the channel after we've just got through to an FA Cup final,
but we're still
I feel like
negative.
I've got to apologise to you for getting you on after a negative one. And Ronnie, I mean you and the Sheffield United game, we're doing that. Having a bit of that?
Yeah. I'm having it.
Yeah, why not, man? It's always a good laugh. Yeah, go and check these two out. Go and check out the link in the description as well for Manscaped. 20% off and free shipping to get the Ultra 5.0. Big thank you to them for sponsoring this podcast. That's been Ronaldo Brown. That's been Lauren Page. I've been Jay Motti. This has been the Paddock Podcast. Thanks for watching.